Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be looking at 6 key factors as to why Aston Villa have gone and purchased Donyell Malen. Do the fans have a reason to be excited? And this is something that we are going to explore in this video today. If you are new to the channel, I do really appreciate if you leave a like and of course subscribe. Now currently Aston Villa are positioned in about 8th in the table this season, and there is a big key factor as to why I think this might be. Obviously, looking back on last season, they managed to finish very respectfully into the Champions League, which obviously has definitely played a part into why perhaps the performances haven't been there in the Premier League this season. However, I do not think this is the only reason as to why they might not be performing as well in the Premier League this season, as they of course sold Moussa Diaby in the last transfer window. Diaby was pretty much one of their only real out-and-out wingers in the team, and I feel like once you get rid of sort of wing play, if you like, you have to sort of adopt a new play style, and I think that's something that Aston Villa really struggled with. Which leads me on nicely to my next point. Now, if a club is removing their wingers, obviously you need to sort of have depth in that position. However, Aston Villa didn't have that, and they were relying on the likes of Jacob Ramsey. However, Jacob Ramsey, unfortunately, football has not been too kind to him this season. As you can see, he has picked up quite a few injuries here, missing quite a lot of the games in the season, and I feel like this is really impacting Aston Villa and the way they play. With Jacob Ramsey's injury coming into play, McGinn has sort of slotted into that almost left-sided role out wide, and McGinn obviously naturally not a winger by any means, and again that's what I feel like Aston Villa has been really lacking with in the recent couple of games anyway. Obviously recently Jacob Ramsey's just coming back from injury, so it's helping them with them wide sort of attacks and spreading the field a bit more. But yeah, I think this is a big reason as to why I think perhaps Aston Villa haven't been getting the results they are after this season. With Diaby moving and obviously Jacob Ramsey picking up injuries, McGinn having to fill in, it's also leaving the likes of a new signing Morgan Rogers kind of being almost tested around loads of different positions, predominantly sitting in behind Ollie Watkins, of course, but recently he's been tried out wide as well, which I feel like can only affect his form, perhaps, maybe making him a bit unsettled or unhappy with playing out wide, which is why I think Malen will definitely be good, almost a good excuse to get him into the squad. So the likes of players like Rogers are more happy playing in a role that they should be in, just in behind the striker, sort of creating that space for Ollie Watkins. And yeah, I feel like signing a new winger to actually play in the position where perhaps Rogers is sort of being pushed out to at the minute is only going to help players like Rogers really perform at the highest level. I feel like you're really losing a big talent in Morgan Rogers if you're forcing him out wide, especially when he is so good in the hole, sitting in behind that striker. Now, another contributing factor as to why Rogers might be being pushed out wide and Tielemans sort of taking up the Rogers role is because obviously one of the only natural wingers in the club, being Leon Bailey, has not been performing the best this season. As you can see his appearance here, obviously a lot of these will be off the bench as well, but 18 appearances, 1 goal and 2 assists just isn't enough output for a player of Bailey's calibre. And not to mention the sort of calibre that obviously Aston Villa are looking for in these wingers, especially at a Champions League level. I'll put it like this, you don't really want your wingers at a Champions League level to be Leon Bailey and John McGinn really. You want to play wingers, natural born wingers that are really going to help you spread the play out wide, get a bit of pace in behind and make the other team really fear you. Which moves me on to my third point, which is sort of Aston Villa's form. Now, I'm not sitting here saying Aston Villa's form is completely terrible, but obviously, if they want to be a Champions League level squad, then you need to sort of keep consistently playing at that level, which obviously they weren't really reaching at the start of the season. Now, I will say, recent times, obviously, as you can see here, they've not been doing too bad, but I feel like a big reason as to perhaps why they didn't perform so well, especially in the start of the season, would be due to sort of being almost quite predictable. Obviously, if teams, obviously opposition teams are going to be studying the teams they're playing against, And if they see the likes of Villa, perhaps not the strongest on the wing, like on the wings or with the wing play, then it becomes quite easy for the opposition team to sort of know what Villa are going to be doing, trying to build it through the middle, and almost like allows the opponents to almost double up in the middle and not really worry too much about the wide players. Now, this obviously naturally creates quite a block in the middle of the park for the oppositions that they're playing against, because they're so focused on the sort of the inside, and they know that the likes of McGinn is not going to exactly beat them for pace on the outside. So yeah, it just becomes quite predictable. Now, being predictable is not exactly what you want as a football team, which is why I raised this point. Obviously, teams that are going to come up against them are obviously going to be focusing on the inside and the middle of the park, and not really worrying too much about the wide positions, because they know the likes of McGinn, for example, are not going to be running in behind them. However, with the addition of someone like Donyell Malen, this might become a bit more of an issue for opposing sides. Now, fortunately, I have a fantastic example to show you guys of the most recent Aston Villa game, of what I mean by predictability and perhaps opposing teams almost switching off, which I think Aston Villa can really capitalise with the wide play if they introduce it. So the players like Malen are really going to be able to help spread the play. Now, I'm going to press play on this clip here. You're going to see straight away, I'm going to pause it as soon as it cuts to the next scene. Now you can see the way that Arsenal, the backline, just focus on their backline right now, is so almost like narrow, because they know that Aston Villa perhaps don't have the wingers. Now, in this second half, fortunately for Villa, they subbed on the likes of Donyell, the fullback, who is obviously, you can see at the top of the screen, just up here, getting very, very wide, and absolutely no one marking him here. And I think this is because of obviously the pre-game. The Arsenal players are probably being told, just worry about the insides, don't let them in between the lines, in between the defenders, and stay narrow and compact, because obviously they don't have the likes of Marlon and Bailey running in behind. Now, as we let the play, obviously we play the clip out. Look, Digne's got the ball here. Obviously it kind of zooms in now, so you can't really see. But the next closest defender here would be Thomas Partey. Now, obviously, naturally not a right back, which is obviously perhaps a reason as to why this goal did go in the end. But look at how much space Digne has to cross the ball there, and obviously Tielemans is there with a fantastic finish to score for Aston Villa. And just to really write home about my point here, once again, obviously this is a fantastic cross from Matty Cash, but again, it's another goal from out wide, and perhaps something that Arsenal perhaps didn't plan for in the build-up to the game. So yeah, I feel like Aston Villa just having more options is only going to help them in the future. So that brings me on to point number 5 then, and that is going to be Dortmund, and why this move was just so important for Malen himself. Now, since very early on in this season, Donyell Malens has been competing for his position with the likes of Jamie Gittens. Now, obviously, Jamie Gittens has recently had the upper hand in this sort of 50-50 battle, and I think the whole sort of not having the consistency and being allowed to play has really ruined sort of Marlen's form and flow. However, now that Malen has managed to sign with Aston Villa, I think that this is really going to help, because I think he doesn't really have too much competition at Villa in the wide positions. Like I've obviously stated earlier in the video, will be one of the only natural sort of wingers at the club. So therefore, you like to see, or you like to think, that he's going to get a lot of game time, and that consistency could really help him bring back his Dortmund numbers. So what I mean by that is, obviously we can see here just at the top, this is this season, and it's 6.6, 5 goals, 1 assist. Obviously a lot of these will be sub appearances as well, and you can just see it just screams like he's just needing that consistent starting time. You can see from his recent games here that he's either not been playing, or he's getting 60 minutes here or there, getting subbed on, and I feel like with a player like him, he needs to have that consistent game time. Like you can see his previous sort of seasons here at PSV and Dortmund, where he's been performing above and beyond, and I feel like that probably just down to consistency, confidence, and knowing he's going to be in the team and he's going to give it his all and make sure he can really do it for Villa. Now, luckily for Aston Villa, Like I said, Donyell Malen is a natural born winger, and this is going to offer them a lot more width and pace on the wings, which is very well needed. And if you've watched a player like Malen, obviously he is known for his dribbling and sort of touches inside the box and being able to score good goals and in general very good wing play, which is going to only obviously aid Villa and hopefully help them with this sort of predictability sort of issue that they might have in the season. Now, the only thing that Aston Villa might struggle with Marlon, obviously, like I said, he is known for his sort of dribbling, successful dribbles, being very attacking in that sense. And the thing that might potentially struggle for Villa is sort of the lack of defending from Marlon's side. Obviously, they have Matty Cash in right back right now, which I don't think the Villa fans are too happy with in terms of like ability either. So they might be a little bit exposed defensively on that right side. But obviously, if you've got the likes of obviously Kamara and Onana, hopefully they can sort of cover in for Marlon and help him defend that right side a little bit. Better, and perhaps that is something for Villa to think about, because that is of course how this transfer move could go sour. And that brings me on nicely to my sixth and final point of the video as to why I think Marlon should be successful at Villa, and that is the initial connections that he will already have at the club. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, obviously Donyell Malen used to be in Arsenal's academy, and who else used to be in Arsenal's academy? That's right, Emi Martinez. So obviously he'll already have a connection and a bond with the likes of Emi Martinez. Now, there is a few Dutch connections in the Aston Villa team, but obviously the most predominant one here would be Ian Maatsen. Of course, they played together with each other, at Dortmund, so they will already have that connection, no doubt. And obviously, Maatsen is sort of struggling to get into the side and getting his game time. However, I feel like it's a perfect sort of it's perfect when you go to somewhere new and you sort of already know someone, you don't feel left out, you already feel that camaraderie with them. You can almost get Maatsen obviously to show him the ropes. Obviously, Maatsen's signing at the start of the season, so he's already well established in sort of where he's going and what he's doing. So yeah, I feel like things like this is definitely a positive for Marlon. Now, I will say, obviously, Marlon only played with Maatsen about 13 times, and with Martinez as well, only 3 times. So perhaps not got the most chemistry on the pitch, but obviously they'll still talk to each other, train with each other, and things like that. So the friendship will already, the friendship bond would have already started, which is great when you're going, especially when you're traveling to a new country, new league, things like that. It's just nice to have someone that you can speak to and you already know. So finally, obviously, I'm really excited to see how Donyell Malen can perform in the Barclays Premier League with Aston Villa. Now, I am aware, obviously, there's only half of the season left, but this is the business end of the season. This is when Villa really do need him to step up and perform so that they can get into them, European positions and push and try and get back in that Champions League spot. Although maybe quite unlikely. A lot of pressure on Marlen's sort of shoulders to try and help them deliver that, but let's see if he's up to the task. With that being said, I'd really love to hear your guys' feedback on this one. Do you think Donyell Malen was a good signing from Villa? Let me know in the comment section down below. I personally believe that Donyell Malen is going to be quite a good signing for Villa. Now, this may not mean, he's going to go and score all the goals for Villa or get all the assists, but I think Villa having a different dynamic to their team, and like I touched on in this video, not being predictable, having almost what's the word? When you've got like a multi-tool purpose, you pretty much coming in with loads of different strategies. You can play the wide players, you can play more narrow, but at least then the opposition won't be so, won't be so sure what you're going to do. At least you can play Marlon, you can play Bailey, you can play Ramsey now and really get the width out of them. And yeah, so less predictability is never a bad thing, like I've touched on in this video. So I reckon Marlon, perhaps, him individually might not be the most insane performer. He might not reach them Dortmund levels, who knows? Obviously we can't predict the future, but one thing is for certain, I do believe Aston Villa definitely do improve their side with Malen. With that being said, guys, I hope you really did enjoy the video today. Bit of a different one, I know. But yeah, if you did, please leave a like and subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you guys in a future video. Peace.